Good morning. Good morning. Have any of you ever wondered why he made this day? Oh, trials and tribulations come, and things test our patience, and things challenge us, don't they? But we do know that in spite of all of the things that are going on in the world, whatever is happening in our individual lives, we know that there is one in control. There is one in control. We have all these other controls we think we can manage, but there is one in control, and that is God, the creator of the universe, the one who made you and me and all of us here today. And we affirm that you are a child of God. I am a child of God. We are wonderfully made, and we are all here in divine order. And it's wonderful to see your faces. I take a moment just to welcome each one of you for your faithfulness to being here. I know I appreciate it so much. And we know that where two or three or four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 of us or more are together, I am there in the midst of us. Without these little challenges in lives, how would we experience the joy of relief? I remember 2 weeks ago, Phil talked to us about joy and kind of wondered what came first, joy or love. And I was reflecting on that this morning as I had my breakfast out on my swing out in the sunshine. And I thought it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, isn't it? Do we have joy before we have love, or do we have love before we have joy? And for me, I can speak for myself since I'm the only one that's unmuted at the moment. I find that for me, love comes first, because if I didn't feel loved, I wouldn't have any joy. I might have momentary happiness, but not joy. So I give thanks that joy is evidence that the love is within each and every one of us. And I think that's just a beautiful thought to think of today, that as we increase our love, as we give, as that circulation continues, then whatever is in us bubbles out, and the joy just spreads all around the world, and certainly to those with whom we live in our neighborhood and beyond. And so, with that in mind, I want to read our daily word today because it is on loving. So, it was really appropriate that this followed 2 weeks ago when we talked about joy. The boundless love of God expresses through me. I am loving. I'd like you all just to take a moment to say those words to yourself. I am loving. To be loving means to be kind, understanding, and generous. It means forgiving grievances easily and seeking to understand myself and others. In striving to be loving towards others, I begin with myself. Exercising self-compassion when I make a mistake makes forgiving others easier. Taking time for self-care makes it more natural for me to be a nurturing presence for others. Treating myself well helps my generosity helps make my generosity spontaneous and frequent. Love is the very nature of God. I am a spiritual being, which means love is my nature too. Through my loving nature, I am positive, optimistic, hopeful, and faith-filled. I am the heart and hands of God on earth. I am loving. I am the heart and hands of God on earth. I am loving. Love is patient. Love is kind. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. We are loving. And that comes from 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, and the 4th and 7th verse. Loving, loving. And as we feel the loving presence of God here in this very room with us, I want to say our affirmations, which is there is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. It's worth having you repeat it with me. There is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And that is true for all of those around us as we pray and think of those in our prayer circle, those whose names have been sent to silent unity, those in our family who need our support. We affirm for them there is only one presence, one power, one love active in your life, God, the good, omnipotent. And we're so thankful for this ministry that we have had, extended far beyond what any of us ever expected. And we give thanks for this ministry for which we proclaim there is only one presence, one power, one love active in this ministry, God, the good, omnipotent. Would you repeat that with me? There is only one presence, one power, one love active in this ministry, God, the good, omnipotent. And because there is only one power, one presence, and one love, we know that that extends out to our whole world, to the whole universe. There's only one power, and that's a wonderful thing to know. Only one. There's evidence sometimes of other things, but ultimately we know there is only one power. And together, let's say, there is only one presence, one power, one love active in the world today, God, the good, omnipotent. And for that, I am so thankful. I do forget sometimes. I do forget and let other negative thoughts creep into my presence. And then I can proclaim once again, there is only one power, one presence, and one love active in all of our lives today. Well, with love being the theme from the daily word today, I chose God is love, life, health, and peace. What a nice fourfold proclamation that is. And that hymn is on page 165. So if you can turn with me to page 165. And I think I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to ask all of you to unmute and let's see what it sounds like when we all sing it together. We will be our own choir, and some of you may choose not to, and some of you may choose to follow with the words, but I'm going to step out and do it. So if Emin plays the music, God is love, I'm going to try and sing, and if you want to unmute and join me, please do.
Esther, are you singing all 8 verses?
No, 4.
God is love, surround me in that love.
His safety ground is above. He's within me. Love is mine and all is well.
God is love,
Pure love is love.
sweet love, and
Love is mine.
and all
Is
is love surrounds me as my safely dwell. 'Tis above, beneath within me. Life is mine, and all is well. God is life, pure life. God is life, sweet life. and all is well. God is peace,
Your peace,
God is
is
peace,
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 mine, mine, and
and
all
all is
is.
well.
Isn't that beautiful? Thank you, Lillian. Thank you. And for anyone else who might have enjoyed our duet, and I think I only heard Lillian, but I think it was, oh, great, Catherine too. So I just thought it was a nice experiment to do so that we could hear our voices and hear the words and hear the music all together. There are 4 more verses that we didn't sing. I want to point out to them in case you don't have the book. God is also strength. God is light, God is joy, and God is truth. So, what is there that we need that that is not provided? So, we give thanks for that wonderful choir of having you us with us together. Regarding announcements, next week we have a guest speaker. Ruben Guzman will be back, and I want to give thanks to Claudia, who is willing to step in as a platform assistant. My brother passed away, and we will have our family here next weekend to celebrate his life. And I appreciate having this opportunity to give my energy and my love and my time to my family. On December 29th, we will have our final service, and I haven't asked Catherine ahead of time. I missed last Sunday, and so I listened to the rebroadcast on YouTube and heard Catherine's announcement. And we may have new people here today that missed last Sunday. Catherine, would you be able to kind of summarize what you said last week?
Yes, it's just a summary. We are going to close down at the end of the year. So our burning bull ceremony will be our last service. And you're welcome to call me or email me if you'd like to talk to me about this or understand what's going on or anything. So please do that rather than sitting there wondering what's going on.
Yes, that was a wonderful invitation. So maybe at the end, Evan can put up your address and your phone number again, like he did last week. That was very helpful. So thank you, Catherine. And thank you, Claudia, for stepping in next week with Ruben Guzman. That will be wonderful. And if there aren't any other announcements, the next song I want to play, and I think
Esther,
oh yes,
I think Della has an announcement.
oh okay.
Della, are you on? Well, maybe not. So we are mailing out the Advent booklets from Unity to everybody. So don't go ahead and order it on your own. The church will be picking up that cost and mailing those out.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. Did you want to talk any more about the possible donation? It might be an opportunity for us to do a little fundraising apart from the normal cost of our services. Do you want to mention anything about Unity Village that was discussed?
Okay. I wasn't going to bring this up now, but this is a perfect time now that Esther's raised it. So their Unity Village is doing a fundraising effort. They are remodeling, I think it's the gym. Anyway, it's a very large building on campus. And so Unity approached me and I will work with Emma to put up some slides next time on what they're doing. But in any case, as you're probably used to, they're going to sell tiles, and there's 3 sizes. I don't remember what they are at the moment. They're 2,500, 5,000, and 7,500. And you can have any wording on it that you want. One idea was to memorialize Phil and Dorothy. And then Claudia had a great idea about memorializing Cap City Unity, where we would just have a tile that says Capital City Unity with our dates. So, and there's no reason why we couldn't do 2 of those, 2 separate ones, or one. Della will work on design, but it's basically just printing. So we will let you know in the future how to send a check that is dedicated to that fundraising, as opposed to, you know, our regular ties that we make to Capital City Unity. So Esther, thank you very much for reminding me on that.
Yes, yes. I thought it was a beautiful transaction between you and Unity Village, and they are kind of like our heritage and our grandparents and our history, and will continue. And the Silent Unity does such a beautiful work, as does the Daily Word that we receive. And I just received mine for the end of the year for November and December. So that's always a relief when I get those. So now, Emmett, if you want to play our next song, and I'm going to offer you the opportunity to sing it with me if you'd like. It's on page 101. Have thine own way, Lord. Will and cry. How is thine, touch me and heal me, so divine. Away, Lord, away, help my being. My spirit will be just only always. Thank you, Emin. Thank you. That's so beautiful. And I almost feel like the whole service has been a time of meditation today. I just feel the presence of God here in our room, and I feel it within our Zoom community as well. And that certainly is the prayer for all of us as we go forward in our life, to let the Lord have complete control of our life, however we can serve, however we can love, whoever and however we can give, that our community will continue in all the various ways as we go forward. And time has gotten a little bit more away from me than I thought this morning. So with that, I want to turn over more time to Phil, because I love for him to have as much time as he needs. And it's time. Let me see if I can see participants. And I don't see Phil to point to him. Let's see, what can we do? Can someone point to Phil? I don't see him on my screen.
Phil's there. Just point. Just point, Esther. He sees you.
Oh, okay.
I see you. Can you see me, Esther? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Oh,
Yes.
praise the Lord. All right. Well, friends, as always, it's wonderful to be with you. And Esther, you do a wonderful, cool, collected job. You're working with me, and I don't always seem to know where I'm at. But in any event, I look forward to being with you. And as you know, I don't take my sharings lightly with you. I think we're very privileged to be what we call true students, people who are aware of their personal relationship with God, and who also understand that as we grow and understand more of our spiritual principles, we assume more of the power that God loves to share with us, to take dominion in our lives and in the world. Today, I found myself in thinking about our thoughts for sharing, going back to something that I talked about earlier, and that was the feeling that was projected by so many people. The world is such a mess. why doesn't God do something about it? Why doesn't God do something about it? And I spoke to that before, and I thought even more about it, and think it's a very important question for all of us to appreciate and understand, because I think it can be in the way of our relationship to God if we think God is just sort of turned a blind eye to what's going on in this world. God knows very well what's going on in this world. But when people say, why doesn't God do something about it? They mean they want us to do something dramatic now in an outer way to change what's going on in the world. And when I think about that, I think those are sort of people that believe in the literal story in the Bible about Adam and Eve. That is, they think God just went beep, and we had an Adam, and he went beep, and we had an Eve. But that isn't the way it works. God is all about the business that brought us the first Adam and Eve. The Adam and Eve came into reality only as a result of generations of the evolvement of consciousness. And most of you know the wonderful work, or probably I hope you all know the wonderful work of Teilhard de Chardin, who gave us that marvelous picture of the evolution of consciousness from its very beginning until it evolved through time to come to a point where humans had the capacity for self-reflection. And with the birth of self-reflection came the kind of beings that we are, and our ability to relate to God and be in the position of asking a question that, knowing what I've just shared with us, is a dumb question. Why don't you do something, God? God is always doing something, but it is in the format that humans like to see done. We as general humans, we want to see something physical done right now. We would like God to take somebody out of the picture, probably our good friend Putin. Let's be done away with Brother Putin, God. But again, that isn't God's desire. Whether you can believe it or not, God loves Putin just as much as you, and isn't about to pop him out just because you would like it, get him out of the picture. But God is going about the work, and this is what I want you to believe with me today, because I think it's so healthy, and that is that God is about the work of doing something about the chaos that is in our world today. But God is doing it the same way God has created all creation. That is for the evolvement of consciousness. The evolvement of consciousness. I thought about that as I was revisiting my mind with this thought that people said, why God doesn't do something about it? And I thought, what do you know, Philip? What is God doing about it? And it just happened on that day that I was thinking this again. I found myself going to the computer, and I turned on the computer in its early stages, for the first thing that comes up when you go to the internet. And it hit me that, of course, God is doing what God has always done. God is answering our need for a transformation in the world the same way God created it, and that is by evolving consciousness. And that made me, I looked at the internet, and I found myself sort of bowled over by the fact that on this day, I turned on the internet and went to a place where most people go when you first turn it on. What's the latest thing that's come up on your internet? Myself hearing, or rather seeing in print, these kind of words, not kind of words, these statements coming up on the computer. It said, and this is what the average person who turns on the computer, and all of our young people do, who always turn on their computer and go to the first thing that's coming up on the internet. And this is what I read. This was the first thing. What if the many signs, or rather, what do the many signs from the afterlife mean? What do the many signs that come to us mean from the afterlife? And I thought, oh, that's on there, assuming you have a realization there is an afterlife, which would again infer whether you wanted to wrap it up that time or not, but it puts in consciousness the realization that the internet, the source of all wisdom, is inferring for us that there is an afterlife. So, wow, that hits anyone, and particularly the young people who are turning on their computer. And then I saw the next thing that came up on it, and it said, what if the universe is consciousness? Not consciousness. What if the universe is conscious? What if the universe is consciousness? Again, suddenly, the person who's turning this on, and people by the millions have turned that all over on their computer, and this is flashing up to them, saying, what if the universe is conscious? Whoa, we've got an idea here now that's put before us that there is a consciousness involved in the world. And then next, and this is just what's coming up on the internet when you first turn it on, which all of our young people are seeing it, and you adults, it says, reality is just a bunch of hallucinations. Wow, that puts something strange in people's minds if it's all new to them. Wait a minute, reality is physical. That's what you can get a hold of. This is suggesting it's just a bunch of hallucinations. Well, again, food for thought. Then the next thing that came up was human consciousness may come from another dimension, a scientist proclaims. Whoa, that's food for thought. Consciousness connected to other dimensions of life. And if you want to pursue that, you say, well, you mean I maybe could have contact with other dimensions of life? That's amazing. And then again, this is what that day that I was thinking about this, and I turned it on the computer. These are the things that were flashing up on the opening of the internet. And so this is the last one that flashed up. It says, consciousness, the fundamental reality. Consciousness, the fundamental reality. Whoa, now we've really put things out there in people's thought, which, of course, you're thinking, well, of course, I know that. But the world doesn't know it. Most of the world doesn't have the slightest idea that reality has anything to do with consciousness, and certainly their consciousness. They don't know, for instance, the reality of the health problem they're always having is connected to their consciousness. You do, because you're fortunate to be a true student. But what I'm sharing with you today is this is kind of stuff that's coming up on the internet all the time. And it sparks different reactions in different people. But as I'm suggesting, as it keeps coming up, this kind of thing, all of the day, there is a very subtle educational system taking place. And what I'm saying to us is that all of evolution, all the outworking of God's plan and at work in the universe is based on education, on expanding the understanding of consciousness. It's just like as I say that to you, you and I, as true students, are knowing what I just shared. We know what I just shared with you. I say we know about it for sure, but we're in the process now of working. I think at least, and from my sharings with you on Sundays, I think you know I hit this often, and that is we are working on the evolvement of believing what Jesus said when he said, Father, when he said pray. We all should pray to the Father because we're all one as children of God. And I think most of us are in the place where we're really working at that of believing I am a child of God and I have constant contact with my Father because I'm his child. That's for real. That's not just a wonderful spiritual or metaphysic thought. It's for real. And we've talked about talking to God all the time. If you really believe it, why, obviously, if you know you are a child of God, you're in constant contact with God, then you're talking with God all the time. I mean, it would be a strange thing to be in the presence of your father, your human father, all the time and not bother to say a word. Or if you need a little help, to say, Father, could you help me here? But millions and millions of people don't talk to God. They don't invite God to come into their life and help them just because they don't believe it. Their consciousness has not expanded. And we're involved, as I'm saying today, we're involved in a constant process of learning. And when we say, what's God going to do about the world? God is expanding consciousness. And by my reference to what is coming up on the internet, I'm saying, yes, God is using the internet through many channels of people to bring up before the average person in the world elements of the truth of our being, such as I've just shared with you. And that last one that came up on, it just happened on the day I thought about giving this kind of talk, and I turned on the internet. That was on the internet, the things I shared with you. And that final statement, the consciousness is the fundamental reality of life. That came up, and people all over the world, actually, but certainly in this country, saw the same internet that I did, openings, and it said the basic fundamental reality of the universe is consciousness. That's what accounts for your reality. And as I look at some of you and your faces and all, you realize that you've got your life in your hands because you decide what's real. And I do too. Whoa. I may leave you any moment. No, I may be flying off the screen here because I know my capabilities. No, I'm working at expanding my consciousness of what it means to be the child of the creative mind of the universe. What does it mean? Well, Jesus gave you some challenging words when he said to us, the things that I have done, you may do also. Because you and I are one with the Father. We live in a world that is total chaos because not enough of us know that, believe it, and are manifesting it so much that it is impressing other people. Uh, I mean, as I say that to you, when you think, what was the impact Jesus had on the people around him? Why did they become followers? Because he lived like he knew that God was his father and that he was capable of doing all things through the Father. Because he said, it's not I who doeth the work, but it's the Father in me that doeth the work. I only have to invite the Father to live in my life and express in ways that have meaning for my particular expression of life. And for all of us, as you're listening to me, we all have similar desires. We have a desire for health and for prosperity, for harmony, order in our lives. And as Jesus said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give you all this. That's the kingdom of good. It's the Father's good pleasure. And when I talk to you, it isn't because I'm so perfect at all this. It's just that I realize this is the truth that I need to be working at with you. That it is the Father's good pleasure to give me the kingdom and to know that through me, God can do all things. So, fabulous words, fabulous words. Where do we start? We start with the most obvious things in our lives. That is, what are our obvious lacks? What are we lacking in our lives? Whether it be health, peace of mind, prosperity, some specifics in regard to relationships, our work, or whatever. And we start in that place with this realization that we are but expressions of the God mind, and that God mind is always available to work with us, to work it out. All things absolutely are possible. All things are possible. I love the fact that also on the internet opening that I shared with you, if you stayed on that, you came across something very interesting, and that is, it is a section where it talked about the work of Dr. Robert Lanza. Dr. Robert Lanza, who is a quantum physicist. And he goes on in his work in this appearance on the internet, which is available to all people, educating all people if they have any openness in their minds at all. And Dr. Lanza goes on to affirm that what we've affirmed earlier in this program, and that is that all reality is a result of consciousness. Consciousness is the one reality in our lives. What we hold in consciousness is an outpicturing lives, is outpictured in our lives. As I say that today, and I look at some of your pictures on my screen, I know we're all in the same boat. That is, starting with the big one I began the program with, God's got to do something about this world. You say, what can I do about it? Well, I can give more money to do this or more money. But the first thing, of course, is to change my consciousness so that I see, for instance, most basic, I see a world of peace. I see a world of peace. Well, how can you see a world of peace when all that's going on? Because it can be in your mind, it can be in my mind. I see peace. I see peace as the only reality beneath all the pictures of what's wrong. I have the capacity to see that which is peaceful, is good, people loving people. I love that song. People loving people is the only, but I've forgotten the words now, but it should be the only reality in the world. Peaceful, people loving people. So as I talk about this, and I sort of, because I'm talking to you, I'm putting it on you. I'm feeling it isn't easy. There's nothing easy about what we know our job is to do as true students, and that is to decide absolutely, regardless of all appearances, that we choose to think what we want to think. You choose to think what you want to think. But wait a minute, what's so important about my thinking? Because what you think is what you're going to get. That's what. What you think and what I think is what's going to contribute to what's going to be in the world. And as I say that again, I think, well, probably the first thought in my head is, what's one little mind going to do? But you're not connected to one mind when you think the truth. You're connected to the very presence of the source of all life. God, we live and move and have our being in God mind. I keep going back to this, and in case you don't, it might be helpful to you. I keep reminding myself, God is universal mind. God is not some being somewhere. You say, well, I don't believe that. Well, that's endowed in the human consciousness. So it's very easy to slip into it. God is some presence somewhere. God isn't some presence somewhere. God is all, and you're in it. God is universal mind. God is universal mind, and you're in it. You and I are in it. We're in God mind. And in God mind, all things are possible. All things are possible. As I say that, I look at my screen up corner, it says Zoom workplace. We're talking about work. If you're interested in improving your life, it means you got to be willing to go to work. If you and I are interested in improving the world, it means we have to go to work. Because the change consciousness is, well, I'll say it, it varies in degree for each of us, but in general, I would say to change consciousness is one of the hardest things in life. Because sometimes when you think, oh, I've got this thing, I really don't want it. How long have you had it? I've had it since I was a child. I've had it all the time. So it isn't something you're going to snap your fingers and change. It is the work. The work that is ours to do. And as I say that, and I see some of your faces, we're true students. I'm looking at a bunch of true students here. And we have the potential of being a real powerhouse in the world as we do the work as true students that we're doing today by letting me talk, be willing to listen to me, and I to want to share these thoughts that seem positive and helpful in me for you. That we have that, and now it's our job to work at it. So, back to my original thought for the day, and that was, why doesn't God do something about it? God is, because God is educating us, transforming consciousness like God did at the very beginning. Remember, God didn't go beep, beep. We had Adam and Eve. God created a consciousness until suddenly it grew to a point where it became self aware, and then we had the first Adam and Eve. We had the first humans.
Hmm.
That was a process of gradual evolvement of expanding consciousness. And so, to save our world, we've got to enter in and be leaders in the part of expanding consciousness, that all things are working together for good. All things are working together for good. Even in this chaotic world, all things are working together for good. Well, I bless you today, and I salute the fact that you're here listening to me today, and you wouldn't be if you weren't a working true student. Proud to know you, and give thanks for any part that I can play in your life's journey of being the best truth student possible. God is so real. If I've confused you in any way, just talk to God a little bit and say, hey, God, straighten that out for me. And I only say that because that's what you can do for everything. Go to God. God hears you. Talk to God. Most personal, realist, powerful thing in your life, your capacity to talk to God. I love you today and give thanks that you will have a wonderful day. Thank you, Esther, for your help again. To all of you, my love and appreciation.
Thank you so much, Phil. You always bring so many pertinent and in timely manner ideas to us. And we are so grateful for your wisdom and your understanding and your willingness to do the work to make it possible for you to be with us. I know it's a strain and a stress sometimes, but you're willing to do that work. And we're so thankful for you for doing that with us. And part of the work that we perform is doing our offering, and we take time to address the fact that your love gifts, that your offerings, that your tithing, whatever you choose to send to this ministry is certainly used for the glory of God. And we remind you and give you thanks for taking the time to well. And as Catherine mentioned earlier, if in the future, as more information comes out, if you would like to donate to that separate gift of Silent Unity, to make that clear on your donations, if it's for our regular sustaining our speakers that come to us and our weekly expenses, or whether or not you're making an extra donation to the memory item for Silent Unity. So with that, Emma's going to play our last song. He's got the whole world in his hands on page 314. Well, thank you, Sharon, for playing all of the many, many verses that we did not even have on page 13, 314. That was great. He certainly has the whole world in his hands. He has you and me, baby, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got this ministry in his hand. He's got everyone you're praying for in his hands. And as I sung as a little child, only believe, all things are possible, only believe. And thank you again, Phil, for reminding us about the importance of our consciousness. That is something I took notes on this week and will be working on in my own mind as I go forward, to have my intentions be to serve and to just really always raise my consciousness to a new and better level, and know that you are all in your right place as well.
Words.
Yes, Ben's reminding me about the prayer of protection. he's my little sidekick over here. And so that is how we will finish. So if you want to, I'll unmute. Whether you wanted to sing unmuted before or not, doesn't matter. Now we'll speak these wonderful words together as we say, the light
Light
of
of
God
God surrounds us. The
love
love of God
holds us.
The
Power of God
protects
protects us.
The presence of God watches over
me.
wherever
Wherever I am,
we are.
God is,
God is.
and all
All
is
is
well.
And Emin, if you want to splash up Catherine's address
Oh,
and phone number, that would be wonderful. So we'll see you next week with Claudia and Ruben, and happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Oh, no, look at that. 1050 Sagamore. 95822.
my email's on the side there, if you can see it. Yes, thank you. Oh, good.
good.
Thanks. I also want to point out that in the chat, Della has basically again mentioned the Advent booklets, and she's got her email there. If you want to make sure that you're getting one, you can email her, but it will go out to anybody where you've done regular contributions and we have your home address. So check with Della if you're concerned that that's not the case. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you all.